how the human brain chooses a partner, most of us grow up believing love is something magical, something sudden, something that just happens. But love doesn't just happen. It is chosen quietly, subconsciously, and long before you're aware of it. Your brain is always watching, measuring, comparing. It notices how someone makes you feel when you're silent together. It remembers how love felt before, especially the parts that hurt. And then it looks for a familiar emotional pattern. That's why attraction feels instant sometimes, not because it's new, but because it's recognizable. Your brain isn't chasing perfection, it's chasing meaning. Dopamine pulls you toward excitement, toward intensity. Mystery, the emotional high. Oxytocin pulls you toward closeness, toward safety, bonding, and connection. And somewhere between those two chemicals, your brain decides if someone feels worth attaching to. This is why calm can feel boring at first, and chaos can feel addictive. The brain confuses emotional unpredictability with passion. It confuses anxiety with desire, and it calls it love. But real connection doesn't overwhelm your nervous system. It settles it. When you begin to understand how your brain chooses a partner, you stop asking, why am I attracted to this person? And start asking, what part of me is being activated? Because attraction isn't about fate. It's about familiarity. And growth begins the moment you realize you don't have to follow every feeling your brain creates. You can feel attraction and still choose better. Love is a neurological process. The brain, not the heart, makes the first decision in attraction. Familiarity drives attraction. We're drawn to emotional patterns we recognize, even unhealthy ones. Chemicals shape desire and bonding. Dopamine creates excitement. Oxytocin creates attachment. Intensity is often confused with love. Emotional chaos can feel like passion, but it isn't connection. Awareness leads to healthier choices. Understanding your brain helps you choose partners consciously, not reactively. Love is a neurological process. Most people grow up believing that love is emotional, mysterious, and driven by the heart. We talk about following our heart, listening to our feelings, and trusting the spark. But long before emotion enters the picture, something far more powerful takes control: the brain. Love does not begin when you feel butterflies. It begins when your brain decides someone is worth paying attention to. The brain's primary job is survival. Everything it does, every attraction, every bond, every attachment is filtered through one essential question: is this safe, and does this benefit me emotionally? When you meet someone new, your brain immediately starts collecting data. Their tone, their confidence, their emotional availability, even the way they make you feel about yourself. All of this happens silently within seconds. Before you label the feeling as attraction, your brain has already activated neural circuits associated with reward, memory, and emotional regulation. This is why attraction can feel automatic and uncontrollable. It's not that you chose the feeling, it's that your brain recognized a pattern it believes is meaningful. Neuroscience shows that romantic attraction activates the same reward pathways as addiction. Dopamine floods the brain, creating focus, motivation, and desire. This is the high people confuse with love, but dopamine doesn't care about long-term happiness. It cares about pursuit, novelty, intensity. At the same time, your brain is referencing stored emotional memories, especially early experiences of connection and rejection. These memories shape what your nervous system interprets as love. If love once felt unpredictable, intense, or emotionally distant, the brain may associate those sensations with attraction later in life. This explains why people are often drawn to partners who recreate emotional patterns from their past, even when those patterns cause pain. The brain prioritizes familiarity over health. What feels known feels safe, even if it's harmful. This is also why logic struggles to override attraction. You can know someone is wrong for you and still feel drawn to them. That pull isn't coming from your conscious mind. It's coming from deeply wired neurological responses designed to protect and reward you. But here's the shift. Once you understand that love is neurological, not magical, you gain power. Attraction stops feeling like destiny and starts feeling like information. You realize that feelings are signals, not commands. Real emotional maturity begins when you stop asking, why do I feel this way? And start asking, what is my brain responding to? Because love isn't proof that someone is right for you. It's proof that your brain found something familiar, stimulating, or emotionally significant. And when you learn to separate attraction from attachment, chemistry from compatibility, and desire from safety, you stop being controlled by your brain's instincts. You start working with them. That's when love stops being something that happens to you and becomes something you choose. Familiarity drives attraction. Attraction often feels spontaneous, instant, almost electric. But what we call chemistry is rarely new. It's familiar. The human brain is deeply wired to seek what it recognizes. Familiarity feels safe, not because it's healthy, but because it's predictable. And predictability gives the brain a sense of control. When you feel drawn to someone quickly, it's often because their energy, behavior, or emotional style mirrors something your nervous system already knows. This is why attraction can feel so intense. Your brain isn't discovering something, it's remembering something from early relationships. Especially in childhood, the brain learns what love feels like, whether that love was consistent or chaotic, warm or distant, validating or conditional. Those experiences become emotional templates. Later in life, the brain searches for partners who fit those templates, even unconsciously. If love once felt uncertain, you may feel pulled toward people who are emotionally unavailable. If love required earning attention, you may feel attracted to those who make you work for it. If love felt intense but unstable, calm connection may feel unfamiliar, boring. The brain often mistakes emotional discomfort for excitement. Anxiety becomes passion. Uncertainty becomes desire. And because these feelings are familiar, the brain interprets them as meaningful. This is why people say things like, I don't know why, but I'm just drawn to them. The truth is, you do know. Your brain recognizes the emotional pattern. Familiarity also explains why we repeat relationship cycles, even after heartbreak, even after promises. To choose differently, the same type of person appears again. It's not a lack of willpower, it's conditioning. The brain returns to what it knows because it believes it can manage the outcome better this time. But familiarity is not the same as compatibility. What feels normal to your nervous system may not be good for your emotional health. Growth often feels unfamiliar at first. Healthy love can feel slow, quiet, even unsettling, because it doesn't activate the same emotional alarms you're used to. This is where awareness changes everything. When you begin to notice what you're attracted to and why, you create space between feeling and action. You stop assuming attraction means alignment. You start questioning whether the pull you feel is about connection or repetition. Familiarity doesn't mean destiny. It means your brain is following a pattern, and patterns can be rewritten. When you learn to sit with discomfort, to tolerate calm, to choose emotional safety Over emotional intensity, your brain slowly recalibrates. Over time, what once felt boring begins to feel peaceful. What once felt electric begins to feel draining. True attraction evolves when familiarity is replaced with security, and the most powerful shift happens when you realize this: you are not broken for being attracted to what you know. You are human. But healing begins when you choose what helps you grow, not just what feels familiar. Chemicals shape desire and bonding. What we often call love is, at least in the beginning, a chemical experience before commitment, before trust, before real intimacy. The brain releases a powerful mix of neurochemicals that shape how we feel toward another person. These chemicals don't just influence attraction, they create it. Two of the most influential are dopamine and oxytocin. Dopamine is the chemical of desire. It fuels anticipation, motivation, and focus. When dopamine is activated, the person you're attracted to occupies your thoughts. You replay conversations. You wait for messages. You feel a rush when they show interest and a drop when they don't. Dopamine thrives on uncertainty and reward. It doesn't care about stability. It cares about the chase. This is why early attraction can feel intoxicating. The brain is essentially saying, pay attention. This matters, but dopamine is not selective. It's triggered just as easily by emotional unpredictability as it is by genuine connection. Mixed signals, inconsistency, and emotional distance can heighten dopamine release, making attraction feel stronger, even when the relationship is unhealthy. Oxytocin works very differently. Oxytocin is the bonding chemical. It's released through emotional closeness, physical touch, trust, and vulnerability. It creates feelings of safety, attachment, and comfort. While dopamine pulls you toward someone, oxytocin helps you stay. Healthy relationships require a balance of both. Dopamine without oxytocin leads to obsession, anxiety, and emotional highs and lows. Oxytocin without dopamine can feel stable but passionless. The brain needs excitement to engage and safety to attach. Problems arise when people confuse dopamine-driven desire with love. Intensity feels meaningful. The highs feel deep. And because dopamine is powerful, the emotional experience can feel undeniable. But what feels intense isn't always what's healthy. The brain can become addicted to emotional unpredictability, mistaking stress for passion and longing for connection. This is why people stay attached to relationships that don't meet their needs. Oxytocin creates emotional bonds that make separation painful, even when logic says it's necessary. Dopamine keeps hope alive, the belief that things might change, that the next moment will feel better. Understanding this changes how you interpret attraction. You stop assuming strong feelings means strong compatibility. You start asking whether what you feel is excitement, bonding, or a cycle of chemical reinforcement. Awareness doesn't remove emotion, but it gives you clarity. Real love develops when dopamine settles and oxytocin deepens, when excitement evolves into trust, when desire is supported by emotional safety, when your nervous system relaxes instead of staying on alert. Love isn't just about how someone makes you feel in the moment. It's about how your body feels when you're with them over time. When attraction no longer feels urgent, obsessive, or overwhelming, but grounded and secure, that's when chemistry becomes connection. And the moment you understand the chemistry, you gain the power to choose the connection. Intensity is often confused with love. For many people, love is supposed to feel intense, fast, overwhelming. We're taught that if it doesn't feel dramatic, it isn't real. That love should make your heart race, keep you awake at night, and consume your thoughts. And when a relationship creates emotional highs and lows, We label it passion. But intensity is not the same as love. Intensity is a state of the nervous system. Love is a state of connection. When a relationship is unpredictable, when affection is inconsistent, communication is unclear, or emotional availability comes and goes, the brain stays on high alert. This constant uncertainty activates stress hormones like cortisol while also triggering dopamine. The result is a powerful emotional experience that feels urgent and addictive. The brain becomes focused on relief from doubt, relief from longing, relief from emotional tension. And when that relief finally comes through attention, affection, or reassurance, it feels euphoric. The contrast between stress and relief creates emotional intensity. The brain interprets this emotional spike as depth, as meaning, as love, but what it's really experiencing is regulation, not connection. This is why calm relationships can initially feel dull. When there is consistency, emotional safety, and clear communication, the nervous system relaxes. There's no emotional chaos to resolve, no adrenaline to chase. And for a brain accustomed to intensity, calm can feel unfamiliar, even empty. People often say, the spark is gone, when in reality, the anxiety is gone. Another reason intensity is confused with love is emotional mirroring. When two people bond over shared pain, trauma, or unresolved emotional wounds, the connection can feel deep very quickly. Vulnerability accelerates closeness, but depth without stability can create attachment without safety. Intensity bonds fast. Love builds slowly. True love does not keep you guessing. It doesn't make you question your worth or replay conversations in your head. It doesn't thrive on emotional confusion. Instead, it creates steadiness, a sense of being understood, a feeling of emotional permission to relax. This doesn't mean love is boring. It means it's regulated. The most meaningful relationships don't spike your nervous system, they soothe it. They allow excitement without anxiety, closeness without fear, and passion without instability. When you begin to recognize the difference, your standards shift. You stop chasing emotional highs and start valuing emotional consistency. You stop asking how intense the connection feels and start asking how safe it feels. Intensity demands your attention. Love earns your trust. And the moment you stop confusing emotional chaos with passion, you create space for a deeper kind of connection, one that doesn't burn fast and fade, but grows quietly and lasts. Because real love doesn't overwhelm you, it grounds you. Awareness leads to healthier choices. Awareness is the moment attraction stops being automatic. For most of our lives, we move through relationships on instinct. We feel something and we follow it. We assume that attraction means alignment, that chemistry means compatibility, and that strong emotion means something important is happening. But without awareness, attraction runs on autopilot, and autopilot is powered by past patterns. Awareness is what interrupts that cycle. When you understand how your brain forms attraction, you stop treating your feeling as absolute truth. You begin to see them as signals, information about your internal world, not instructions you must obey. This shift alone changes how you approach dating, relationships, and even heartbreak. Instead of asking, why do I want this person? You start asking, what part of me is responding right now? That question creates space. Awareness allows you to pause between impulse and action. You notice when attraction is driven by familiarity rather than values, by intensity rather than safety, by chemistry rather than emotional availability. You begin to recognize patterns as they form, not after they've already hurt you. This doesn't mean you stop feeling attraction. It means you stop being ruled by it. With awareness, You start evaluating relationships differently. You pay attention to how your body feels over time. Are you calm or constantly anxious? Do you feel emotionally secure or perpetually uncertain? Are you able to be yourself, or are you performing for connection? These questions matter more than excitement. Awareness also helps you tolerate discomfort. Growth often feels unfamiliar because it doesn't activate old emotional patterns. Choosing a healthier partner may initially feel quieter, slower, even confusing, but awareness helps you stay present long enough for your nervous system to adjust. Over time, your brain rewires. What once felt boring begins to feel peaceful. What once felt thrilling begins to feel draining. Your standards shift from emotional intensity to emotional consistency. This is how attraction evolves. Awareness doesn't make love less romantic. It makes it intentional. It allows you to choose partners based on alignment, values, and emotional capacity rather than unconscious repetition. You stop hoping someone will change and start noticing who they already are. And perhaps most importantly, awareness brings compassion. You stop judging yourself for past choices. You realize you weren't weak or foolish. You were following patterns your brain learned to survive. Healing begins when awareness replaces self-blame, because the goal isn't to eliminate attraction, it's to align it with your well-being. When awareness leads the way, love stops being something you fall into blindly. It becomes something you step into with clarity, choice, and emotional health. Conclusion, how the human brain chooses a partner. When you step back and look at attraction through the lens of psychology, one truth becomes clear: love is not as random as it feels. Every pull, every spark, every emotional attachment begins in the brain, shaped by chemistry, memory, and survival instincts. Understanding this doesn't make love less meaningful. It makes it more honest. It reveals that what we feel is not fate acting on us, but patterns expressing themselves through emotion. We are drawn to what feels familiar because the brain values predictability over perfection. This familiarity can feel comforting, exciting, or even painful, yet the brain often labels it as love simply because it recognizes it. Realizing this allows us to question our attractions without denying them. We learn that desire is not proof of compatibility, and intensity is not evidence of depth. Chemistry plays a powerful role, but chemicals alone cannot sustain a healthy relationship. Dopamine may create excitement and longing, and oxytocin may form deep bonds, but without awareness, these forces can keep us attached to what harms us. When we understand how these chemicals influence our feelings, we gain the ability to separate momentary desire from long-term connection. Perhaps the most important realization is that emotional intensity is not the same as love. Chaos can feel passionate and calm can feel unfamiliar. But real love doesn't keep the nervous system on edge. It allows it to rest. It doesn't demand constant proof. It offers consistency. Love grows not in emotional storms, but in emotional safety. Awareness is where everything changes. When you understand how your brain chooses a partner, you reclaim your ability to choose consciously. Attraction no longer controls you, it informs you. And from that place of clarity, love becomes less about repeating the past and more about creating something healthier, deeper, and lasting. Not by chance, but by choice. Thank you and goodbye notes. Thank you note. Thank you for taking the time to listen, reflect, and stay open to understanding yourself on a deeper level. If this message resonated with you, it means you're already doing the most important work, becoming aware. Goodbye note, until next time, stay curious about your mind, gentle with your heart, and intentional with your choices. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.